Nothing that untoward in this display, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes.
Everything perfectly normal, and not at all a tongue-in-cheek reference to people who are awful. Anyway, hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to, what is this again?
This is a reconstruction of the execution of Charles the Second. Charles the First.
I was going to say, was the second executed?
Probably.
Probably being foppish.
Yeah, so if you don't
I
like
pull my shoulder out climbing into the seat there. That's bad, isn't it?
if you don't like gore, turn away now.
Yeah. Hi!
Ah.
But if you like small dogs making little cameos for cheap comedy. Hi there, it's me, Small Dog. Then stick around. Welcome to Doctor Who Review. I'm Chris.
I'm not Chris.
We're continuing our video podcast review of we're up to modern Doctor Who, and we're at the final video of Series 4. The complete 4 of the series. Today we're going to be talking specifically about Turn Left, The Stolen Earth, and Journey's End, aka Avengers Assemble 4 years before Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
Let's start off with Turn Left, and I'd like to ask for you to summarise it, because much like Sounds in the Library Forest of the Dead, you barely remembered this one.
I remembered snippets.
Snipples.
So basically, the Doctor and Donna are at a market in space somewhere.
Space market.
Space market.
A space market.
And Donna gets lured into having her fortune being told. And she is basically hypnotised in a way to change.
Bless you. Oh my goodness.
Excuse me. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, to
God.
change.
She's compelled to recall the day where technically her fate of meeting the Doctor was put in motion.
A lot of noises from me. I'm so sorry.
God. So she's made to think back about like what event caused them to meet.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, obviously, the Mill's been poisoning me so a giant spider could have said, no. But how did you get there? How did you get there?
Yeah.
And the fortune teller gets her to narrow it down to a moment where she was going to turn left on the road that morning after an argument with her mum to take the 10th position. But Sylvia wanted her to go right and get a permanent job as a personal assistant at an employer that she was talking to on her behalf. And the fortune teller, played by Chipo Chung, a returning Chipo Chung, Chan not playing Chanto this time though, sort of gets her to focus on it, and then the episode begins. Mm-hmm. But not before something scuttles out from the back of the fortune teller tent and crawls up onto Donna's back.
Yeah.
So what happens is we get essentially our first ever what if story.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of like Inferno and whatnot, being here's a parallel universe where Earth's buggered or whatever. Like this one is just here's a what if tale. Mm-hmm. Although by the end the Doctor explains it away as a parallel universe having been created around her.
Yeah.
Which is why someone's able to communicate with her in it.
Yeah.
Donna's life changes. Any significant events you can think off the top of the bat for her that are Donna specific? I mean, she gets a better salary, but then she quits not too long after.
She gets a better salary. She
doesn't grow as a person, essentially. That's the thing. Donna is not the Donna we now know, having spent time with her.
No, she kind of, I don't know, there's obviously something in her that made her want to help, because as soon as she heard like all the ambulances and stuff, with the Doctor having stopped the Ragnars, she went over to help.
So what's going on? Or just nosy. Could just be a nosy.
But do people do that? Like run up to?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Where do you think
no.
the phrase? Where do you think the phrase? What's it like? Trying to turn away from a car crash is from?
If you do that, that's not a good thing to do. You should reassess your life choices. But
It's more a gut instinct thing than someone picking
like
to
run
do
up
it.
to something.
Yeah, because you want to. Your body's trying to assess the danger. Your mind's trying to assess the danger.
I don't. I understand looking, but not actively running over.
Well, I don't worry. The flooding of the Thames happens. The flooding of the Thames happens.
But she doesn't. But she doesn't like.
Well, the first thing she sees is the star, isn't it? Everyone's like, "It's the Christmas star," and we're like, "It's the
Christmas star."
It's that extra, bless him. And we're like, "It's the Ragnars ship. It ain't a Christmas star." And Donna notices. She's like, "No, that's a web."
It makes me laugh because you always say like a Christmas tooth.
Something, yeah. Oh, you smell that? The Christmas fart.
It puts Christmas in front
You
of
boy, it's the Christmas toast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just made me laugh that. But yeah, so like I say, she noticed that it was a web. So there's something in her.
Oh, you're saying that there's something inherently in Donna that is
like she wants to know.
Yeah.
And she does know that there's something going on, but she doesn't.
But is that partially something in the far back of her mind knowing this is wrong?
But she doesn't. Or she has that instinct, but she never gets to embrace it. So
until the end, when she's sort of handed a chance to set things right, but even then is lied to about a happy ending.
Which is why I think she goes along with it.
Yeah.
There's something in her that's like, yeah, this is different. Let's do it.
Much like Midnight, this gets pretty damn dark. So the Ragnars invasion, the Ragnars attempted invasion happens, and presumably Lance wooed someone else.
Yeah.
Because it still happens, but Donna's not there specifically for that moment when the Doctor's making sure that the place floods to kill the Ragnars' children. Donna's not there to be like, come on, like, get him out of there.
Yeah, you can stop now.
Which, of course, at the end of that Christmas special, Runaway Bride, she made a point of saying, like, I'm not coming with you, but please find someone to travel with you because you can't be on your own.
Yeah.
Like, she could sense that it's like, nah, you're going to make some bad decisions if you're on your own.
Yeah.
And, of course, in this instance, she wasn't there with him.
Yeah.
So he's dead.
Yeah.
We see his body being brought out of the warehouse areas near the Thames.
You hear, like, I'm assuming it's like unit.
Yeah, there's unit soldiers there because they've identified the recovery.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it flooded too quickly. Basically, he
didn't get a chance.
He died too quickly for his body to have a chance to regenerate. Yeah.
Which is a really interesting theory.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we've not really seen it in action properly in the show. The closest we got to it, off the top of my head, someone remind me if I'm wrong, but off the top of my head, so far up to this point, the closest I can think of is the Fifth Doctor dying of spectrotoxemia. He gets Perry back to the Tardis.
Yeah. And
it's sort of alluding to the whole, what happens with the First Doctor, the idea of, like, they need to be near the Tardis.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that helps, the regeneration. Because, of course, as he's dying, all of his friends in his imagination are saying, come on, get up. And then the Master comes through and he's like, no, die, you prick!
You're useless!
But then he still regenerates. He turns into Colin! Oh, Colin! So there is that. But, he snuffs it. And with one Doctor later in particular, we get to sort of see what happens if they are killed before they regenerate.
I think, because you don't really think of that, do you?
No, you just assume that, if he dies,
he'll come back. He'll come back. Yeah, because for some stupid reason, in the back of my head, I'm always like, but what if he gets his head cut off? He's dead then. Then you can't go back from that.
Well, his hand grew back. His handy
hand.
Yeah,
unless he's like, unless he's been like...
He plays a big bloody part in this story. His handy hand.
Yeah, but, I mean, whilst he's regenerating, but, like, if he were in, I don't know, an accident or something, he would just die.
Presumably, yeah. So,
and it's something you don't really think about.
So the Doctor's dead, which leads to a series of parallel events. So when the hospital gets taken away from Earth in the events of Smith and Jones...
He's never met Martha.
He never met Martha, so Martha tries to save people up there, but without Mr. Smith being there, she doesn't have the guidance, and everyone bar a few people suffocate. So it shows
there's only one survivor. Guy.
So it shows that there's a couple of survivors, but it shows that
who said there was only one survivor?
I thought he was just one of the few. I don't know, but the point is, it shows that that the Jadoon. Oh no, that was it. No, a few people survived because they used the oxygen tanks.
I'm sure he said that. I'm sure the news thing said there was only one survivor.
Well, they used the oxygen tanks.
Regardless.
That's the takeaway, is that the Jadoon were going to send everyone back, but it was like, close to the wire, so much so that a lot of people perished. And Martha used her oxygen tank to save a bunch of the one that she managed to get hold of to share it with other people. So she's dead, and is named by. Let me find his name. He's named by Oliver Morgenstern, the medical student from Smith and Jones, with Ben Wrighton reprising the role, which I thought was a really nice touch.
It was.
Because they could have just cast any old bugger as a random doctor. They went, no, let's cast the other guy, the medical student who talks to the Jadoon. Let's bring him back.
Yeah, because it makes more of an effect. It's like...
You're like, oh god, it's the events of that story. But we also learned that not only did Martha Jones die, so did a group of investigators who were on the premises. Specifically, Sarah Jane, Luke Smith, Maria Jackson, and Clyde Langer. Because, of course, without the doctor, someone else was investigating the hospital.
Yeah.
And the plasmavore and all that stuff. So, the cast of your kids' favourite spin-off show over on the CBBC channel are dead, everybody.
Are all dead.
They're all dead. Now, at the sight of all of these, or shortly after the sight of all of these, Donna bumps into a mysterious blonde-haired woman. It's Rose! We finally get to sort of find out what's going on, slowly but surely, and Rose is the reveal in this episode, played by Billie Piper, who she's playing a more experienced Rose, who's clearly had a life of some sort for the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's unmistakably her. It's like, yeah, that's Rose. Rose has been working with people in her dimension where she's trapped to create the tech to break through in just sort of little flashes, different realities, to try and find the right one to find the Doctor. Because, as she points out, there is something coming, and it's a darkness, like at the end of the universe. The stars are going out. Something is beginning, and it's screwing with everything.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, by the end of the series, we realise that it hasn't necessarily started, but it's like the effect, because obviously time is non-specific. The events of it all have begun in certain universes.
Yeah,
although it gets prevented in the finale, but
that's crazy. I think that it didn't impact me as much the first time I watched it, but this time I was like, oh my god, that's actually really scary that it affects all different dimensions. There's just nothing.
Like, there's absolutely nothing. And it's that bit like Will spots the stars going out and everything, which is really creepy with his telescope. And I love that Rose sort of has some knowledge of how time is going to progress in this, because she's probably seen a version of this conversation go down already.
Yeah.
Or at least the key events, because she knows that after a certain event, Donna will come to her. But it's like she recommends that Donna get away for Christmas, and she's like, what the hell?
She's probably seen all this in the wrong order.
Rose, possibly, yeah. But then, like, Donna, wins that work raffle, so they book a Christmas trip away, and that's where things start to get really freaking complicated, because the Titanic, the spaceship from Voyage of the Damned, without the Doctor, crash lands onto Earth, as was the plan of the saboteur, and Max Capricorn's thingy, which means that Max Capricorn is probably in the rubble of London somewhere, waiting to be picked up.
Yeah, to go
back to his thingy.
Beach with lots of ladies.
Ladies who like metal.
That's so stupid.
I love it. It's such a great... Oh, come on, that is the best Christmas special so far. It's so good. London's wiped out.
Yeah.
And Donna's family are saved as a result, which leads to them being moved into housing, because everyone from the southeast of England. Like, it's not just London, it's the surrounding counties and everything have been completely wiped out.
Yeah.
So people are being rehomed en masse, and they end up getting sent to Leeds, to a housing area, where they share with a lot of people, including Mr. Rocco Colasanto, played by Joseph Long, who is getting a shout out here because holy Christ, the work he does in this is so good.
Yeah.
So they share this house there in the kitchen, and it's scary because it's suddenly like, this is a story about being evacuated and having to sort of put up with boarding, and everyone who's involved in this is on equal footing. Everyone is at an equal level. of inconvenience and suffering and misery. And they really sort of, in the script, Russell T Davies really kind of hammers it home by having them share with families that stereotypically are put into the position in terms of narratives on TV of like asylum seekers or lower income families from other countries, refugees, like people who are really screwed over. And there's this wonderful kind of touch in the middle of all this tragedy and all this real life parallel where Rocco is basically treating this like it's the biggest adventure. Like he's making everyone feel welcome and warm. And
like he's got one big family.
You see, like, Sylvia is understandably at her most miserable and dark at this point. Like Sylvia Noble. Played brilliantly by Jacqueline King. And you see it melt away when they've got everybody singing songs in the living room. And it's just this wonderful moment of like, oh my god, it's a bit of calm before the storm. Till gunfire breaks the silence as they head outside to find that the military who are patrolling like these areas of Leeds to make sure no one's rioting or stealing from each other or whatever, are firing at the engines of a nearby car because the Atmos system has gone off. So we've got another what if happening. The Sontaran's plan has gone ahead.
Yeah.
But it's not worked in the UK compared to what's happening everywhere else in the world, because no one's driving. The UK's been screwed over. Most of the country now aren't driving around at all. Like, everything's gone to pot.
Yeah.
But the Sontaran's plan is stopped, as we're told by Rose, by Torchwood 3, who went up to the ship. Jack has been teleported to the Sontaran homeworld with the main 10th Fleet. And based on the timeline, Gwen and Yanto had blown up on the Sontaran ship.
Sacrificed themselves.
Yeah. Before this, Wilf talks about how like America are apparently going to step in to help the UK. And then we learn that there have been tens of millions of deaths because of the adipose incident. And you're just like, oh my god, like you suddenly realise how much the Doctor being around affected the fate of the planet in the last few series. And it's a wonderful idea. It's like, hey, you stuck with us for 3 years. Brilliant. Let's pay that off. Let's give you some, like, hey, you remember that? Yeah.
We're going to show you some scary stuff.
Here's what happens if they lose. Or in this case, here's what happens if he doesn't even get involved at all.
If you lose, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying
it. It's absolutely incredible. And then it gets even more disturbing because obviously the best... And when I say best scene, I just mean the most effective, not like, oh, this is cool. It's really horrible, and that's the point. The scene where Rocco and his family and a bunch of others in the area are being rounded up by the military under the martial law to be taken to labour camps because there's not enough room in the housing to make this work anymore, so they're taking everyone who's not a first-generation born UK citizen to these labour camps. And Rocco makes a point of being like, hey, no, it's... saying to Donna, and he's like, it's okay, it's fine, it's work, we're going to have food and shelter, it's fine, it's going to be alright. Hey, I'm going to miss you, come here, you with girl, fiery red hair, and all this. He's been really sweet and wonderful with her. So it says goodbye to Sylvia, and you can see Sylvia's a little trepidatious. Donna, not the learned Donna we're used to, still not quite...
She's not getting it.
The penny's not dropped yet. And it's just Wilf, oh my god.
It's
Bernard
horrible.
Cribbins, and, let me shout him out again, Rocco. Joseph Long, holy shit. That moment where they just salute to each other and Rocco gets on the truck, and the moment he's on it, his wife is breaking down in his arms. And that's when it starts to hit Donna, and you just get that. Will's just saying, that's what they called labour camps, that's what they called them last time. You're like, oh my god, it's happening again. It's like, oh my god.
Do you want to know something really interesting?
Go on.
So, the way they salute... what's the guy's name, sorry?
Rocco.
Mm-hmm. He salutes with his hand down.
Yeah.
And
Wilf does it with his palm out and his thumb in his palm as well. Yeah,
so that kind of makes you think, if you understand that, that they have both been in the military.
They've both seen combat.
In different things. So with the hands down, he was probably in the Navy. With the hand up, he was a soldier.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys probably fought for the same things.
Yeah.
For the freedoms that you're now being taken away.
They're now being taken away from you. Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even thought of that. That's true.
And that makes it even more heartbreaking. Because they've obviously got that connection with each other.
Mm. They're the elder statesmen of their respective families.
Yeah.
And they spotted the pattern of what's happening already.
So there's a little tidbit thing.
It's grim. Speaking of grim, throughout the episode there's a recurring element where different people in Donna's life keep looking at her funny.
Yeah. Like horrified.
Like, they can't quite get over the fact that Donna doesn't seem to notice what's wrong with her. You get this really creepy moment where a housekeeper at the hotel that they stay at over Christmas she's talking in Spanish, and she refers to it as a spider.
Yeah.
And that, along with how it's done, is totally a homage to Planet of the Spiders. And how Sarah Jane spends most of that story, which I thought was quite nice. But it is creepy. It's because as Rose shows her when she finally gets to talk to Donna properly, because that's the thing, isn't it? It's the labour camp's the thing that pushes her.
Yeah.
It's like, right, that's it. Come on, I've got to go. I need to find out what's happening. Because Rose has already warned her, like, when you find out, you're going to die. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my god. So Rose is like, right, I'm here with Unit. I only come through the universes here and there in little pockets. But the TARDIS was fished out of the Thames during the Ragnars incident. It's here, and they've essentially like borrowed components of the console to create a one-off like time travel harness that will send Donna back to that moment where she turns right, and it will give her the chance to go back and stop her past self from turning right and instead turning left.
Yeah.
Thus resetting the course of this history and hopefully putting her back on course to the Doctor being around.
Can we just talk about the TARDIS?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
You go... Oh no! I've got tea on my art. Sorry.
Fantastic.
They go into the TARDIS because Rose is like, do you want to see it? Donna's doing the whole, oh my god, I can't believe
we get to see like
inside.
Donna's sort of first go really at Bigger on the Inside, isn't it? When Bride comes out of it, it's just sort of like, what the hell?
I don't know, is it the first time?
It's the first proper one, because when she first appears
I'm thinking of Martha.
When she first appears in it, she just appears in it.
Yeah. So there's all that, but then they go in it, and the TARDIS is completely dark. Like, there's no light. You can't
it's still
see.
shot as though it's this miraculous kind of moment, but the music's quite muted.
Yeah.
And it knows that you, the viewer, and Rose know that this is not how it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's really oddly eerie, isn't it?
It kind of wakes up a little bit when Rose touches it, which I think was really kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's sort of the TARDIS sort of groans a little, because the implication is it's dying.
Yeah.
Like, it is damaged and it is dying, and without the Doctor around to like know what to do, it's going out. But it's holding on, possibly because it knows that Rose is there long enough for these components to be usable.
Yeah. Because
with the help of Unit Captain Magambo, played by Noma Dazwani, it was a great like addition, because again, it's just like, oh, cool. And then we see her again in a few stories' time.
Yeah.
So it's a nice bit of continuity for New Unit.
Love continuity.
Continuity, hey! They show this sort of setup that they've got where Donna is able to see what is on her back.
Yeah.
These sort of mirrored walls. And it's a big bloody beetle just sat there.
Look, do you know what it made me think of? In the 90s, there was a big thing with like padded black bags that looked like a shell, or looked like a bug.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted one.
There's something on your back. Yeah, my new bag.
My new bag from Shoe.
You've heard of Loungefly? This is just a lounging fly. It's on my back.
Nice.
Thank you.
That was good.
Thank
that was
you.
good.
Donna's horrified by it. And
Understandably.
You would be. You're like,
Yeah.
so for the last like couple of years, people have been saying there's something on me, and now like I can see it. But that's when Rose is like, right, so you're going to send you back, and you've got to change things. And just before she goes, Donna's like, because I understand. She's sort of motivated. She's like, we're going to make this happen. And she goes, I understand it now. She's like, when you say I'm going to die, that's not what you mean, because when I get back and change things, everything's going to set back to the way it should be. Like I'll be back here, but it'll be it'll be the right universe again.
Yeah.
And Rose is like, yeah, no, because
kind of staring
and it's
at
like
her,
either it's because she knows that things are correct, or it's because she, like you have pointed out, appears out of order.
Yeah.
So she knows how this is going to end. So Donna gets back. She's too far away. She legs it, and when she knows she's going to miss like the exact moment that she could possibly. I'm not sure what she was going to do.
Well, she doesn't know what she was going to do, does she?
She's having to wing it.
She just knows that she's got to get over there, and then she realises.
Yeah, so she resigns to it, throws herself in front of a lorry, which stops the lorry and creates a traffic jam in the residential area, which basically floods the road and makes the younger, not that fussed Donna go, oh, I'm not sitting in traffic for that. She turns left and goes to a temp job.
Yeah.
And as she lies there dying, Rose comes up to her and whispers something in her ear. And then Donna wakes up. The fortune teller's like, what are you?
Oh my god.
Legs it. The Beetle's on the floor dead. The doctor shows up and she's so happy to see him. And that's when we get the explanation that, so none of that happened yet. It was a universe that was forming around her.
Yeah.
So had it all gone through, that would have been another timeline that existed.
Yeah.
But it didn't. But she did. So it's okay. But she's got vague memories of what happened while things were changing. One of which is that woman.
Yeah.
And she passes on the words that the blonde woman said, and you can just see because he makes a point of being like, it is weird, isn't it? It's almost like fate kind of drew us together. Like, I mean, I met you, like you appeared on the TARDIS, then I met your granddad, then I met you again. He's like, it is kind of odd. He makes
It's
a
more
point
than a
of that.
coincidence.
Yeah, and he's like, huh. And then she's like, yeah, I remember this woman talking to me. Who is it? Oh, it was a blonde woman. Who is it? And you can see that he's like starting to piece together the idea of the universe is breaking down.
Yeah.
And she passes on the two words she was told to say, which were
Bad wolf.
I thought you were going to say like fried eggs.
Fried eggs.
Yeah.
You're so cute.
Ooh wee.
Oh, matron.
She passed on the magical words. You should have hunted me.
Oh my god.
She was a decoy.
No. Stop going on about bloody decoys, you.
Everything's a decoy. The decoys have made decoys.
Are you a decoy?
I've always been a decoy.
Oh my god, he's a decoy.
Bad wolf. And then we get this bloody brilliant reveal pre-finale moment of the Doctor going outside and the universe freaking him out. Everything suddenly says bad wolf everywhere.
Yeah.
Including all the signs on the TARDIS. Bursts in and that big old cloister bells are ringing.
Love it.
Which now you've got added context for.
Something that really... not many things freak me out, but certain sounds really freak me out. Like sirens, no, don't like them. The cloister bell is one of those sounds that I'm like, oh, something bad's happening, and so I don't like it. Defense mode.
Yeah.
So, but hearing that, in my head I was kind of like, oh no, I hate that sound, but also, oh my god, I understand it now.
So knowing the cloister bell didn't sound then before the battery ran out. One last thing about turn left that I think is worth bringing up.
Mm-hmm.
What was the beetle? What was the Time Beetle?
The Time Beetle?
The Time Beetle! The Time Beetle!
What do you mean?
The Doctor very briefly explained where it came from. Can you remember what the name of its whole deal was?
No.
He said it was one of the Tricksters Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
Yes! So...
We have met the Trickster before.
Yes! With his floaty little prune face.
Nice, weird butthole face.
We have a villain connected to the Sarah Jane adventures. Will this be followed up on? Because it explains it. It's like in this we just learned that, oh, chaos is happening, this is weird. But the Rose plot kind of takes precedent. So there's not too much of an explanation as to why this happened, is there?
No.
Unless you know about the Trickster, in which case you know that the Trickster, as in Sarah Jane Adventures, feeds off of like the chaos of different decisions altering time.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be consequences for this? Yes. And we'll be doing a video on that story very soon. Right.
I was going to say something then, I can't remember.
Close to bell?
Oh, you said that when we were talking about this before we actually put it on, you said, oh, and the kind of villain of it is somebody that you've heard before. And obviously I didn't click because I'm stupid. And you said it was the Trickster. So in the back of my head, whilst we were watching it, I was like, oh my god, when is the Trickster going to show up?
Oh no, you would have remembered. You would have remembered
like,
the Trickster, surely.
Wait, what? What's happening?
But it's interesting because it does make you wonder.
I don't remember the series clearly.
Well, it does make you wonder because obviously when the Trickster goes after Sarah Jane, on a few occasions, removing her from time or erasing from a certain point, all the chaos that would unfold from her not having been around would of course include all the time she was with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Which means his life would have gone differently. So it's not necessarily situations that would have not been resolved because Sarah Jane wasn't around when it comes to the Doctor, but obviously certain things would have turned out different. Whereas in this instance, like, taking the Doctor out of it was obviously a much more beneficial thing to do, because that was the sole objective of the Time Beetle and the Fortune Teller, was to get rid of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but why?
But why?
But why? That will be followed up on.
Right now.
Yeah, no. The Stolen Earth! Hello! Thank you. I just got a little lick on the face.
Lovely.
The Stolen Earth! The planets are going missing.
What's that
And the
all about?
stars are going out.
What's that all about?
And the Doctor and Donna, after Earth is pulled out of its place in the solar system,
That was a charming sound, darling.
head to the Shadow Proclamation. We finally get to see the Shadow Proclamation. It's been mentioned a few times. This authority of some kind out in the stars.
I remember watching it the first time thinking, oh, I thought it'd be a bit more than this.
More than the lobby of an office building.
Yeah.
With some glass furniture.
The
But
sign taken out.
But you know, we
Needs must.
they go there and discover about all the planets going missing, and the Doctor pieces together that certain planets have been taken and put into a natural configuration that acts as a form of engine. Like their orbit and everything creates a type of power that could be harnessed by someone. And as he points out, I've seen someone try to harness like the Earth as part of an engine before, but no, it can't be.
No.
Meanwhile, Rose rocks up amidst all the chaos as everybody on Earth is freaking out and rioting and looting. Torchwood are trying to deal with XYZ. Sarah Jane and Luke are using Mr. Smith, the computer, to figure out what the heck's going on. Martha at UNIT, specifically at the New York HQ at the moment, is all involved. And they are all contacted on something called the Subwave Network by Harriet Jones, former Prime Minister. Yes, we know who you are.
Yay!
The former MP for Flydale North is back, played by Penelope Wilton.
Hooray!
Using this thing called the Subwave Network, which was specifically set up and sort of organised by Harriet Jones to get in touch with... It's continuing her motivation from Christmas Invasion, to get in touch with the people who know the Doctor, in case it looks like the Doctor isn't going to show up.
It's a good idea.
Another bit of continuity. It was funded by the Mr. Copper Foundation. No further lines, but of course, Voyage of the Damned, you're like, so that's what he did with his money. Okay, interesting.
That was one of those moments where Christopher was like, oh, yeah, remember that name? And me going, yeah, no.
Earthonomics?
Don't remember.
So yeah, he did that, and Penelope Wilton's back, and what they do essentially is she's the signal, the one signal that's getting through everything, alerting the rest of them, and they're going to use the rest of them to communicate with the Doctor. One of the sort of computers that's communicated to is the laptop at the noble's household.
Yeah.
Where Rose currently is, because she's gone to try and find Donna to find the Doctor.
Yeah.
And she finds Wilf and Sylvia defending themselves with a paint gun. Because who's invaded, Bew?
Can I just point out that I love that Wilf has a paint gun for some reason. That's not a normal thing to have in your house. So, yeah. Okay. He's defending his daughter and himself from the Daleks, because they've appeared.
The Daleks! And they are snatching up random people from certain towns and certain positions. Not a lot, but enough people that it's obviously worrying that they're just coming down and kidnapping people from the streets.
Yeah.
They demonstrate their powers a bit with that family. Just sort of says, like, no, leave us alone. They go back in their house, the 3 Daleks line up and perform a maximum extermination, which I guess is just extermination, but louder. And they basically turn the house into an interior explosion, killing them all.
Yeah.
Daleks are sent after Harriet Jones, but the signal's already going out because Martha knows the Doctor has her phone.
Yeah.
But he could be anywhere, so they boost that signal, because everything on Earth all the signals on Earth are being screwed with anyway. So they boost it. They use Torchwood 3 to boost the signal. No, they use Mr. Smith to boost the phone signal by subtly calling it from every mobile telecommunications device on the planet. You see, bless Rose, Sylvia and Wilf all get their phones out and call it as well, which is very cute. And then Torchwood 3 helps sort of boost that signal. So you've got the 3 shows, the parent show and the 2 spin-offs teaming up, which is very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. If you're a kid watching this, this is the best thing you've ever seen in your life.
Well, yeah, it'd be confusing slightly. She'd be like, "Who are those 3 Welsh, those 2 Welsh people with Jack? Can we watch that one, Mum?"
Yeah, we'll get it on DVD.
No. But yeah, so it's post Torchwood Series 2, post Sarah Jane Series 1. And it's a crossover. It's a big old crossover.
It's a humongous crossover.
They managed to phone the Doctor, but then Harriet, just before the connection's made, is murdered.
She is.
By 3 Daleks who know who she is.
Because she set it up so that, when the Daleks find the signal, it will only lead it to her.
And then obviously after it's happened, it switches to Torchwood, so it's like, look, you're the next line of defence, brace yourselves.
Yeah.
So we got that. She gets killed, although in the poetry book I've got upstairs, the one that Russell T Davies does the illustrations in, there's a poem about her escaping through a trapdoor just before she's shot and leaving. She lands on a big old crash mat she's put in a basement.
I don't know, I wouldn't put it past her.
So there you go.
But the thing is, you see, from the very small amount of footage you see of her, you see how much she's changed and how...
Yeah,
because
she knows the Doctor's the right person to do this, but she also is still very clearly, annoyed with him. And not because he got her fired, but because of why she was annoyed with him last time, which is, you're not always here.
Yeah.
Don't talk down to us.
Mm.
And she makes a point of saying that. It's I still stand by my decision. And it's fair enough. I love the bit where Wilf's remarkable woman, I voted for her. And Sylvia's like, no, you didn't. Well, no, technically you all voted for Saxon, but you were sort of persuaded to, so there you go.
But,
although, did you notice there's a callback to that as well? There's a bit with the pinging of the devices, and it's going bing, 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 bing. It's like,
we both looked at each other like...
reference.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
No.
From the 4 knocks in one scene, surely not.
If you could...
Too soon.
Spoilers. Anyway, if you compare what she was like in the first story you see her in, the Slodine one, and what she was like in that episode, it's a humongous difference, because when the Daleks crash through her house, she doesn't even flinch. There's no...
She was sort of mentally prepared for it, because they'll find you, and she's like, that's fine. That's a risk I'm willing to take.
She was just so ready for it and so on it.
But meanwhile, there's a backup plan. Torch would give Martha, I can't remember what it's called, it's Project something or other, but it's an emergency teleport that's been salvaged from Sontaran technology. So it could go horribly wrong. We found out later that, no, it worked. It sent her, because she just could have teleported anywhere, it sent her where she wanted to be the most in the whole world, and in possibly the final days of Earth, which was back with her mum.
Back with her mum!
Giving us a
So
chance to check in with Francine Jones.
Eyebrows still on top form.
Eyebrows on fleek! And then she goes off in search of something called the Osterhagen Key, which we learn by the Mexican standoff in part 2 is a doomsday device that can destroy the Earth.
Yeah. In
case the threat against it is so great. Like, Torch would have Jack at least is sort of aware of it existing.
Yeah.
And the Doctor later on is absolutely fuming that she's even considering it.
Mm.
But the idea is that even Martha had pieced together that if you take the Earth and put it into this place in space with like 27 other planets, you need it for a reason.
Yeah.
So if the Earth's taken off the table, then that screws things up.
Mm-hmm.
So before it all goes, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, what are they up against? What's that plot? Daleks are here, but why are the Daleks here? What are they doing?
Do you know, I don't know. I know that they're...
The Daleks' ultimate plan is to finally win. Like, it's their plan from day one. It's to make themselves they're the superior race in the universe, so they're going to cleanse it by killing everyone else. That's always been their plan. They've just done it planet by planet and all this stuff. Now they're cutting straight to the fast forward button because they have at their disposal a device called the reality bomb, which they've been slowly putting together, which will, when detonated, using these planets as an engine, at the right point where it is in time and space, the right angle, because it's all. I remember they're all a second out of whack as well.
Yeah.
Because the signal's what helps the Doctor get before the phone goes off. It helps him get through. Because they arrive at that part in space, they're like, "What are we looking for here?"
Yeah.
After bothering the Shadow Proclamation lady and the Jadoon, but like, you know, what we're looking for here, and then they're basically everything's like 1 second out of whack, which is a brilliant idea. Okay, so you said when we were watching it, you were like, you just wanted to do that, didn't you? Yeah, probably.
I just really want to see the outtakes of Catherine Tate.
Try not to piss herself.
Try not to pee herself laughing.
But yeah, so they get there. Everything is where it is. All the planets that were mentioned as a thread throughout the series as we watched it, like the adipose colony and the nursery planets and the lost moon of Poosh and like all these places that have been mentioned on the off chance of having vanished.
Yeah, all throughout the series.
Yeah, like the Vesperform's world and all these different things. We realise that, and that's why the bees are disappearing, because the Doctor says they're just going home. Donna's like, you telling me bees are aliens? He's like, no, not all of them. Which is,
but he's just so nice. Casual about it.
And yeah, so that's your series arc paid off. Like, the lost planets are all being used for this. But the reality bomb will, when triggered, they test it first, and they're so near to completion.
Yeah.
That then they test it on a group of humans. Who basically like turn into atoms. What is it? The dust will become atoms, and the atoms will become nothing. Is the theory essentially, leaving nothing but the Daleks behind.
So not great.
No, not for us anyway.
Not for us. No.
And that's the plan. And it's like the Daleks will wipe out everyone, and then they'll have finally achieved like the thing they set out with from day one. The objective they've had since day one, because of their creator, who for the first time since 1988 is back in the show.
Guess who's back?
Back again.
Davros back.
Took 20 years. Took 20 years, but he's back, baby. Played this time by Julian Bleach, one of the few actors who've crossed all 3 shows off their list at some point. Because remember, we last watched him, we did our Torture retrospective in From Out of the Rain as the Ringmaster.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays the Nightmare Man in Series 4 of Sarah Jane Adventures. And in between those two, here he is as Davros.
Dave Ross.
The David Ross. God, he's good.
He is good.
He's really good. Julian Bleach is a very physical performer. He's a really big, like, expressive theatrical performer.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge for him as an actor to be like, oh, yeah, you don't get to move.
You can move.
You can move an arm, and you can sort of tilt your head a bit, as much as the prosthetics will allow. So it's a gamble to put a very physical actor in this sort of role.
Yeah.
But he uses the limited physicality to be really unnerving and really frightening. And then those bits where he is suddenly being very expressive are those bits where Davros is like probably the most unhinged we've ever seen.
Psychotic.
Like, we've obviously had flashes of that in the earlier stories where he's proper barking and screaming. And
like,
Terry Malloy has those wonderful moments in his 3 where he just sort of goes off the rails and you're like, whoa, okay. And it's freaky, but whereas here, it's proper disturbing to see the way he's sort of grabbing at his own head with his now robotic replacement hand and everything. He looks great. The design is brilliant. It sort of evokes all the previous sort of masks, really, doesn't it? They're all in there.
Yeah.
The headpiece and the chair has there's a proper back to it now, and it looks.
He got the upgrade he deserves with the the evolution of technology. Yeah,
and also it looks really good because it sort of is custom built to look like it's part of the Dalek redesign as well.
Yeah.
As you can see here on screen. He's fantastic, and I love the fact that he's so proud that he's created basically the ultimate in racial cleansing in favour of the Daleks, and yet he's not in charge.
No.
So the Doctor points out that he lassoed Davros in the first year of the Time War, where his ship, the Crucible, which is what they're on board, flew into, quote, the jaws of the Nightmare Child, unquote. So Davros and his fleet were thought dead.
Yeah. What is that? Does that ever explain?
No, but that's the wonder of Russell describing the Time War, is everything is abstract. Was it the Nevermore King with his army of meanwhiles and nevermores?
What?
Maybe
that's where Ebony
the fall of the fall of Arcadia and like all these sort of things. But you go, what is that? Like the Dalek Crucible flew into the jaws of the Nightmare Child. What the hell is that?
Child.
But exactly, but doesn't it like just conjure up these like massive H.P. Lovecraftian style images in your head?
Yeah,
it's incredible. I really hope around the year, the 50th anniversary, we don't just see it's a bunch of people going pew pew at each other with laser guns. Anyway, well, I hope the audio spin-off company don't do a lot of box sets of it just being pew-pew with laser... okay.
Well, let's hope.
Anywho, no judgment to anyone who enjoys them or anyone who makes them cool, but just, to me, the Time War is at its most interesting during this era when it's completely abstract. It's frightening. And we learn the reason why Davros and his ship survived is because of Dalek Khan, who we last saw in Evolution of the Daleks in Series 3. Emergency temporal shifting out of existence and arriving in sort of a parallel to Martha arriving where she wants to be from her teleport.
Yeah.
He goes home, essentially. He goes back to the Time War, to the Daleks. But he sees some shit on the way. So by the time he arrives and is able to, I assume, sort of use his energy or whatever to like teleport them all out of there or whatever it is that he does, he's lost his sanity.
Yeah, he's gone a little crazy.
He's been in the time vortex that long that he sees time, specifically in a prophetic way. He knows how these events are going to unfold. He knows that a companion of the Doctor's will die. He knows the Doctor will show his true self. However, what we're told are sort of bent versions of what is actually ends up happening each time.
Yeah.
And the ultimate outcome of the Daleks' failure, he's aware of from the beginning and doesn't tell them so it can happen. Because he's basically realised in his journeys that what they are is pointless and never-ending.
Yeah.
And it's just wrong.
The only problem...
So now if he could go back and tell himself that before he shoots Dalek Sec on stage in his little suit.
Oh. The only problem with what was it, Dalek Khan?
Dalek Khan, yeah.
It's Nick Briggs, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I cannot get the image of Nick Briggs in a sound booth going,
Oh, or at the edge of set.
"Ooh, I see it in the future." I don't know, it's just absolutely hilarious.
It's an amazing performance, and it is really creepy, because, like, whenever a Dalek doesn't sound exactly like a Dalek, it's kind of unnerving. You're like, wait, what? What are you doing? In Dalek, when at the beginning it sounds so weak and frightened, it's so unnerving to hear.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then in this, Dalek Khan is laughing to himself.
It's creepy, but it's really
singing.
funny.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, just the thought of him punch double over his ring modulator, be like,
It's just, it makes me laugh so much. To the point where it really did make me laugh and I couldn't take it seriously for a minute. But that was just me. That was just me being silly.
Other notable Dalek, we get our first modern series Dalek Supreme. Which sounds like a condiment. We get our first Supreme Dalek, who is
something you get at McDonald's.
To this day, my favourite design in the modern series. I love him. Look at him. Come on, look at that boy. He's so handsome.
Christopher loves him so much that we have one in our bathroom.
We have a bubble bath of this guy.
But there's no bubble bath.
With his 3 lights and his creepy little arms that have never moved since I bought the toy.
I hope there's no bubble bath in it.
Oh, good lord. Sweet Jesus.
There's a Dalek inside.
My sweet lord.
And it's seen us naked.
It's great because we get to have another dark voice, like really deep voice coming out of it, kind of like the Dalek Emperor from Series 1.
Yeah.
God, it's good. Other highlights. Rose and the Doctor reunited for the first time,
Yay.
like properly. It's beautiful and wonderful, and then that cliffhanger happens.
The Doctor's freaking out because, seeing Rose, it shouldn't be. But
yeah, it's like it means universes are breaking down. Like it's that bad that this event that hasn't even happened yet is already starting to have the results are starting to happen, which means we've got like no time at all. We have to make sure it stops.
But Donna's like, "But you're gonna see Rose, isn't that good?" And he's got this really panicked face, and he just goes, "Yeah."
And he's smiling,
so
proper
cute.
like,
Oh my god,
yeah.
He's missed us so much.
We learn that the dimension hopping tech from the end of Series 2 from Doomsday is still around. It's now sort of these smaller discs that Rose and, as we find out, Mickey and Jackie also use to come to our universe to get the job done.
They are definitely those lights that you can stick in
that's
your
what I was
wardrobe
thinking, yeah.
that you just push a little.
They look more like that in Series 2 though, when you've got like Jake putting one on his necklace and you're going whack, like that. I like the fact the Doctor doesn't bollock them for it this time, because the fabric between all the universes is absolutely screwed at the moment, so it's not like they're doing any extra damage by doing this. And I like that they set up the idea that they need 30 minutes to recharge, because it gives you some actual peril. So Jackie and Mickey bump into Sarah Jane Smith, who... Can we talk about Liz Sladen in this story? So, it's Luke Smith's first appearance in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So viewers who haven't been watching Sarah Jane Adventures will be like, oh, she's got a kid! Yes, she got a kid. I believe wholeheartedly that is her son when she hears the Dalek communication for the first time with Earth, realises what's coming, and basically has a panic attack.
Just holds him.
Because she's like, and she says, you're so young. And that's the whole point, is it's like, she's just become a foster mum. She's started a life she never thought she was going to have. And all of that is paid off even more beautifully having watched the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you realise that she, in this moment, his mum, who's brilliant and deals with everything and fights aliens and rights wrongs, is showing, like, her immediate reaction is, we're all dead. Like, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do to protect you. It's like, oh my god! Because obviously there's a version of it in Torture when Jack, like, holds Yanto and Gwen close, kisses both in the head, and he's like, I'm really sorry, but we're dead.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
I
he knows, no, but like, he knows, he died because of them. Like, Sarah Jane knows she was, as Davros points out in a lovely bit of fan service, there at the beginning. And it's like, oh my god, yes, of course. Oh, of course, the first Davros story of the original run and the first Davros story of the new one. Sarah Jane Smith's in both of them. So Liz Sladen is great in this, and it's lovely to see her pop up again. And I love the whole... Their goodbye in this one isn't like a goodbye. It's not a, I'll see you around, but it's a, like... You can tell that she's grateful for the life she has now. Mm-hmm. She's no longer waiting for him. Like, she's got past that now. Like, she's well over it. We get a little brief assist from K9 as well, of Mr. Smith of the Signal.
Good boy.
K9! I haven't seen K9 for years! Mickey's like full-on soldier boy at this point. Like, he's obviously... He dealt with all the cyber stuff over in the parallel universe, so like he's well versed in this kind of thing, and we get the sense that he, Jackie, and Rose have been bracing for this eventual jump over at some point, because Rose has been working on it for, as far as we know, years. She might have been doing this for years.
Well, the Shadow
Proclamation, the Shadow Proclamation,
said that, they were saying, oh, that's irrelevant because that planet's been missing for like 8,000 years.
Yeah,
so God knows how long it's been going on for, like in Rose and Jackie's timeline.
And that's what I like about it. Is it's a whole like time is in flux. It's like this could change.
This is serious.
Yeah, as far as the eventuality is concerned in the other universes where it's begun, the Daleks are successful.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because it's already happening to them, but it can be prevented. And
it's some serious wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah, Sarah Jane, Captain Jack hold the Dalek ship hostage with this like warp star thing, white star necklace that Sarah Jane's got, which is a weapon that could blow the Crucible up. Martha holds the Daleks hostage by threatening to trigger the Osterhagen key and blow up the Earth. We get German Daleks. We get I heard the boys talking about the Osterhagen key, which makes me laugh uncontrollably because of Billy Tracy, you bugger. And yes, we've just got all these plots kind of merging into one, including the Doctor, who, after cracking it, doesn't really do much in this, and that's kind of the point. The point that Davros makes is the man who abhors violence never carries a gun, but this is what you do. You find ordinary people and you turn them into weapons. And his point is made when two factions of them are holding the Daleks hostage, either threatening to kill the Daleks or blow up the Earth. And it's like, wow.
Dang it.
They've got a point.
It's got a point.
So the cliffhanger is Rose and the Doctor running at each other. Doctor gets shot by a Dalek, stray shot, and they get into the TARDIS, and he's going to regenerate. And he begins to regenerate, and the to be continued comes up. We don't find out what happens. I remember this going out live. You remember this going out live.
I do. And
for a whole week, all anyone could talk about was, so he's going to change then next week. Like, this was the most I think everyone had talked about Doctor Who since it came back.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it was quiet in the interim. This is during the peak of its modern popularity. But like, oh my god, it was water cooler conversation. It was, it was confessional at church conversation. Like, Father, I have sinned. I've gone online and tried to find spoilers for Journey's End.
Hellfire!
Yeah, it was so good. And then the payoff is this series constantly reminded us that from the end of the finale last year, the Doctor's spare hand in a jar is there.
A jar.
It keeps reminding us. There's loads of shots throughout this series, subtly, like establishing shots in the TARDIS, or whatever, where the hand is in focus at the start of the shot.
Yeah.
And it's mostly just there to be like, this is weird, but it's like, nope. Secretly, it's just been
Look at this hand in a jar.
No, but secretly, it's just been reminding you all that this is here. Because then he deflects the regeneration. As he describes it, the regeneration begins. It repairs his body before changing like all of his atoms, and he just shakes it off the residual energy into the hand. And he makes a point of saying, like, yeah, I don't want to change. Why would I? Look at me. It's like, okay. And we find out in a later series that, yep, that did count as a regeneration. like he is like that for 2 incarnations.
Only you could do that, David, because you're beautiful.
David ages really well though. He's in his 50s now, and he like doesn't look that much older than he does in this series.
I mean, he's pre-smoking in Bad Omens.
Good Omens.
Good Omens. But he's the bad omen.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's Crowley.
I'm trying to repair my dignity.
Anyway.
Anywho.
So, oh Jesus. Police. Cops. Police. Cops. So, welcome back to Simpsons Review.
Yeah, we've merged our two shows.
Our 2 shows?
Yeah, where we go in depth of every Simpsons episode. God,
Please tell me we're not doing that.
Could you imagine?
Hi everybody, welcome back to our The Simpsons Review, where we review the first and only 8 seasons of The Simpsons that there ever were. Weird that, right? They never made any more past it. Anyway.
Probably for the best.
Anyway. So, the Residual Energy... So Donna ends up trapped in the TARDIS because she keeps hearing this heartbeat throughout this story. She keeps stopping in her tracks and hearing this heartbeat and getting distracted. When they get on the Dalek ship, and I love they have that little moment where the Doctor, Rose, and Jack sort of like, well then, Daleks, ooh, oh no, and then sort of like teeing themselves up, and it's like deja vu. Do you know what I mean? And the last time these 3 were on the TARDIS, what were they doing? Stepping out onto the Dalek ship to confront the Daleks.
Oh, and we all know how that went.
Nul point. But I love that was a nice little parallel. But Donna doesn't exit because she's sort of still in this like dreamlike state, hearing the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then the Daleks go, ah, JK, and they drop the TARDIS into the like nuclear reactor that's fueling the Crucible. And
like molten lava.
It's basically going to burn up, and it starts to die, and the Doctor's freaking out because like the Dalek's just going, your precious ship, how do you feel? And it's like, I don't think he's fussed about the TARDIS. I think he's fussed about the fact that his best friend is trapped in that thing that's going to explode. Like, that's what he's worried about.
And everyone's saying, just let her out. Just let Donna out.
They're like, lols. Nah, brah.
Nah.
No, fam.
Not that easy.
Not gonna happen, Chief. That ain't it, Chief.
Chief?
That ain't it, Chief.
Well,
this ain't it, Chief.
What?
You are so out of whack with memes, it's mental.
Yeah, I don't spend my life on my phone, so...
Neither do I. You spend more time on your phone than I do.
Yeah, I know, but I said I didn't spend my life on my phone.
Oh, that's true. You spend your money on your phone. On today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legend. We're not sponsored.
The Simpsons.
So...
God, could you imagine being sponsored by The Simpsons?
Imagine being sponsored by Tapped Out. Does anyone play Tapped Out?
Holy.
So,
No.
you are wrong. Yeah, the residual energy in the hand merges with merges with Donna to create the Dr. Donna. Which at first, so this was always meant to happen. The reason Donna is here, the reason why she keeps intertwining, is because this moment was always meant to happen. Like, for him and for her. She was pulled here, yeah?
Yeah.
And it was foreshadowed throughout the series, like the events of Turn Left were foreshadowed, and you, daughter of London, there's something on your back.
It's the fact that...
And all this sort of everything has been foreshadowed. And what did the Ood call them after
Dr.
they saved
Donna.
them? The Dr. Donna.
I was just going to say, is that what they're referencing?
Yep. And also they prophesized the whole like of the specials year arc as well. It's like, your song will be ending very soon, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna get out of here. That's a bit weird.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, this was always meant to occur. The Dr. Donna. It turns out, the Dr. Donna, regardless of whether they saved the day or not, the Dr. Donna is a fixed point in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is meant to happen, which is why their lives are intertwined. Although next year we learn that there might be even more to why the nobles are intertwined with the Doctor as well. But and it's because at this moment, her touching that's what was calling to her. The heartbeat she kept hearing was his heartbeat before he even existed. It was like an echo backwards. So
it's very complicated.
yeah, so they merge together, and a new Doctor is created who's part human, part Gallifreyan. Which again, the series hinted at earlier on with Jenny. Everything that occurs in these last 2 episodes has some sort of backwards echo in the series. I mean, the Vesperform planet disappeared, sure, but guess what? What is a Vesperform? It's a giant bloody wasp from outer space. Half the bees are aliens and they've left the planet. Like, there's all these little rippling echoes going backwards into the series that aren't like direct connection. This is the first year where the theme is a little bit more, oh, it's destiny. And it doesn't feel like too much of a cop-out because the series has subtly conditioned you into bracing for everything that's going to happen without you knowing it.
This is the complete opposite of a cop-out.
Yeah. Well, because usually it's destiny is a massive cop-out. Like, it's a huge cop-out because it's just, so why are these events happening? Prophecy. Oh, right, okay.
It was foretold.
Yeah, and it does carry on into the next year with the specials, but it sort of works because they've been seeding it to you. And it's not been there's a prophecy, it's been weird little things that make sense later, like Dr. Donna, there's something on your back. All that sort of stuff. So the Metacrisis Doctor, as he's known, is created, which is a human body with all the Doctor's, like, it's a Doctor's appearance, mannerisms, memory, like, knowledge.
Yeah.
But a big chunk of Donna's personality in there as well.
Yeah.
And Donna, we realise by the end, after she gets zapped by Davros, and it apparently gives that one last kick that her body needed, Donna has taken some of the Doctor into her. She's got his smarts, which continues to grow and develop.
Oh.
No, but that's what it is, isn't it? She's not got his memories, per se, but she's got all the knowledge he has is now in her head.
She's got the smart.
And it is cute, because like, she humiliates the Daleks, and she's the one who saves the day. That's the whole point. Like, this was always meant to happen, because she's the one who's meant to reverse it. And then you get the wonderful scene of them all flying off. The TARDIS being flown correctly by multiple pilots. Everyone does it. Except for Jackie, who's not allowed to touch it, which I thought was a really fun little, considering they don't get to have sort of a moment up to that point.
Yeah.
It's nice that the Doctor and Jackie get a couple little moments after that, like her not being allowed to pilot anything, and then her being like, oh yeah, we had the baby. Oh, what'd you call them? Doctor. Really? And you can see him being quite polite. He's like, really? She's like, no, you idiot.
No, she calls him a plum. And I think that's the funniest thing. No, you plum.
No, you plum.
We called him Tony.
And they call him Tony! It's not the name you give a baby! It's just, oh my
baby
god.
Tony.
Baby Tony.
Who's Tony?
Tony Tyler.
Tony Tyler.
Tony Tyler.
Oh, it's too similar to Tony Tyler.
Now, the Dr. Donna exists... Sorry, the Metacrisis Doctor exists for a few reasons. You're going to fight the Daleks, you kind of need to get a bit more hands-on, a bit more violent. This Doctor is refusing to do that. So you create a Doctor who goes a bit past it, a bit past like the boundaries of what the Doctor himself would find acceptable to do. Or at least would try, like, wouldn't be his first option. And that's what Dalek Khan meant about the Doctor's true self will be revealed. It's like, yeah, here he is. Like, here's him without the impulse. As the Doctor puts it later on, he says, like, it's me when you met me. And it's like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. It really isn't. It really isn't. If it was you when she met you, then it'd be my lovely boy. But he also exists for a fan-based narrative perspective, which is Rose has to go back, which she's like, she knows is the right thing to do, but really doesn't want to. But she gets to have the Doctor. Because he'll be with her. He will grow old and die, like a human. They can be together, and when she asks him, what were you going to say? How do I know it's definitely you? Like, tell me something only you know. It's like, right, what were you going to say to her down the beach? He says, I said Rose Tyler. She's like, and what next? He's like, does it need saying? And you're like, yeah, we waited 2 years and we're all curious.
Doctor.
I mean, it doesn't need saying. It doesn't need saying. Well, that's the thing, you see. Even at the time, like the age of 17, I was like, it will be a massive cop-out if they now, like, expand on the Bad Wolf scene. The Bad Wolf Bay scene. And have him outright say it. So I think it's done the perfect way. Because you still don't hear it. But that Doctor leans in and tells her, and then they start multiverse macking, baby. And off they go, and you can tell she's devastated, but she gets to have the Doctor in her life in some way. She gets a happy ending of sorts.
Which is sad because the Doctor doesn't.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone sort of gets a bit of a resolution. Like even Mickey decides to stay behind. He mentions really briefly that his gran, who he stayed in the alternate dimension for initially, has passed away. So like, he doesn't have anything keeping him there really.
Yeah.
So he sticks around, and spin-off potential is teased essentially with Martha and Jack reuniting after their Torchwood and Series 3 escapades, and Mickey goes and joins them, and there is sort of a payoff to that before the end of Tennant's era. Sarah Jane goes off, she's like, I'm going to go see Luke. Oh, God, it's a long story. I've got a son. I'll tell you another day. Bye! It's like, fair enough. Fair enough. And that's when we realise that Donna is still fated to die.
In a way.
In a way. And it's really cruel and possibly one of the more upsetting exits for a character from the show. I find this more upsetting than Doomsday. Doomsday is wonderful, like in how tragic it is, but to me this is more depressing because you have the casualty of it all as well. You have Sylvia and Wilf, who are like, she wouldn't like. Sylvia's opinion basically is like, if it weren't for you, she would be fine. Like, how dare you do this to her? And you completely buy it. And Wilf's opinion is, she was amazing. She was better with you. Like, she's still wonderful and I love her, but like the things that you did together, the person she became, he's mourning the Donna that we got to know. Yeah. Because all that time of knowledge in her head is killing her because the human body's not built for it.
It's like when Rose looks into the TARDIS, kind of.
Yeah, it's like she's gonna die, whereas in this case, snogging her ain't gonna help. Like, the only thing he can do is basically wipe the slate clean. Like, wipe her brain clean. At least up until before they met each other.
Yeah.
And as he says it's the way he tries to console Wilf and Sylvia is that, like, there are worlds out there that are safe because of Donna. Like, people have been rescued because of Donna. And he obviously doesn't say himself, but, like, most of all, it's like him.
Yeah.
He is better because of her, and now he's having to say goodbye. And his series arc continues. His subtle series era arc continues. Of, he lost the woman he loved. He was a dick to a rebound girlfriend, and then realised it. He got with a mate to, like, not to mate, but he got with a mate to, like, to basically find himself again and have a wonderful time. And now she's been taken from him. And it leads perfectly into his character arc for the specials, where he starts making some very selfish decisions.
Yeah. Because, she was always right. You need somebody in it.
And her ending is tragic, made even more so by Catherine Tate's performance in those final moments.
Yeah.
And then her performance as reset button Donna after that. Being the Donna who would sleep through alien invasions and not notice a thing because she was hungover and just gossiping with a mate on the phone. You're like, oh. She doesn't even believe that there were planets in the sky. She's like, mate, you were on something. You've been drinking again. It's like, oh. Made extra heartbreaking when he says, like, oh, I'm going. She's like, oh, yeah, bye. Because to her, he's just a bloke who popped in to have a word with her mum about something. Yeah. And it's like, oh, my God. And the goodbye with Wilf and a billion gifts were launched. Sad Tennant in the rain.
Sad Doctor.
He loses everyone. He tries to save Davros when the Crucible's going down. And Davros is like, nope. He's like, you're carrying this with you. Like, you are taking this. Like, I name you the Destroyer of Worlds. He's like, basically, you're a monster. I'm dying because of you, you bastard. It's like, oh. And I was like, oh. And then the series ends perfectly. He goes back into the TARDIS, sets off on a journey, and he's just alone. And it's really sad. And then the series ends. And I showed you the deleted scene, alternate ending afterwards, didn't I?
Yeah.
And it's like, they absolutely made the right call.
Yeah, they did, definitely.
Made the right call to not use the what, Cyberman popping up from behind him ending. This is the better ending. I really like this finale.
Me too.
It's a lot of fun. I think it works better as part of a binge.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could watch the previous 3 finales in the modern era on their own quite easy. And they benefit from having watched the whole season, but they still sort of work as like just big blockbusters. Whereas this one is very much unless you're very familiar with the show and even possibly its spin-offs, probably won't have the same effect.
I think having watched everything before that has made an impact as well, because the whole Davros storyline makes you think back to when Tom Baker was the Doctor, and they're there
Ooh.
when the Daleks are... What are you doing?
Look at him.
Ooh. When the Daleks are created.
Yeah.
And he has that dilemma of, like, do I kill them? Like do I stop this in its tracks? And, like,
Do I have the right?
The conflict
Do I
he
have
must
the left?
have with himself, thinking, did I make the right decision? Should I have killed them that night?
Well, even his fifth incarnation, like the next after that adventure he has with them, like 2 adventures after Genesis, he's already like holding a gun to Davros, and he's like, I should have done it. I should have pulled the trigger and stopped it back then. And he's sort of been wrestling with that ever since, hasn't he? And like here he is now, like unable to change anything, and they're about to win.
It's not mentioned.
This is quite possibly their... Oh, exactly, it's just it's undercurrent because you've followed his story now.
Yeah.
And this is probably their most like genuinely most despicable plan yet, and they're so close to winning.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about it, like the idea that these are pure Daleks, and we know that because Davros reveals that he helped create their numbers by using his own DNA, and he peels away his sort of smock to reveal, like his flesh he's been hacking away at his flesh.
Yeah, almost in like he sees himself as a god, and this is the last nail in the hand, as you could say.
And his payment,
because he's given his ribs to Adam. You know.
Yeah, it's the whole like they're born of his body, and
I was waiting for the penny to drop there.
Yeah, and it's just sort of that penny that fell out of the tree in the Garden of Eden. Yeah, and they that's what's really creepy about it, is it's like for his troubles, he's basically made, as the Doctor puts it, their pet.
Yeah. He's
working on scientific advancements for them in the basement of the Crucible.
And he's kind of like, shut up!
I love that, yeah. Again, Julian Bleach sells how scary he is, but he also doesn't get rid of the pettiness of Davros. What Terry Malloy did really well in the 80s is he sort of gives Davros a bit of a petty, bitchy side.
Yeah, absolutely.
That pays off really nicely, and it's not lost with Julian Bleach.
No.
Do you have that wonderful bit where he's like, it's like you're not in charge. He's like, we have an arrangement. It's just like, oh no. Oh, LOL. It's a fun finale. It is. It's really upsetting at the end.
It's sad. It's, I think maybe that's why they put everybody in it. Because it's like, hey, everybody's happy. This is a happy time. Oh, but something sad's happening.
Yeah.
So
are we having fun? Yay! Ooh, look at these publicity shots. Everybody's gathering around. Look at them all. We're having a great time.
Moment.
By the way.
And Donna is essentially dying.
Yeah.
That's so heartbreaking. Imagine, oh my god, that could have happened to us. Like, we could have been with the Doctor, me and you, going off on adventures.
Didn't you?
And we would never know because we had to have our minds wiped. And if we
This isn't the first time that's happened, though, is it?
No. And if we get, if we see anything to do with the Doctor, our heads will explode. I mean, we definitely weren't with the Doctor because we don't run. Let's just say that. And that is
But it's just it's kind of, again, like you said, there are echoes in all this, and it is like having that knowledge of the classic era pays off, because you're now kind of seeing in real time the actual tragedy of what happened to Jamie and Zoe.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing.
Oh yeah, Zoe as well.
But it's the same thing. Like, it's the same,
it is.
We just get to see, like, obviously from their perspective, they would pluck from their respective whatever, and then they would just put back, and they were essentially reset to factory settings and didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Whereas here, there are people waiting for Donna who will always know what it should be like.
Yeah.
And it's, Sylvia is incredibly bitter about it, and Wilf is incredibly devastated by it, and it's...
Thing is, though, Sylvia didn't really know. She had no idea that she was travelling in space.
She does by now.
Yeah, well, no, she does now. Because Donna and Wilf were talking about it, and oh, don't tell her, she'll only go off on one.
Yeah.
And so it's like the mum in her does come out eventually.
Yeah.
But it's
I think Jacqueline King and Bernard Cribbins add a lot to this story.
yeah, they do.
And to the weight of it all. And also, in Turn Left, you made sure we were all completely silent in the room for the... Oh, take those off.
No, shout, it's Christmas. You're like, no, it's not this bit.
I was like, I'm sure that's in the End of Time.
Oh,
I'm sure that's in the End of Time Part 1. I guess if we watch it and he does it in that as well, then it'll just be a nice little bit
twofer.
of... It's a bit of twofer. A wilf twofer. A woofer.
A wilfer.
Oh, no. What do you guys think of Series 4 as a whole? What do you think of the finale? What do you think of Turn Left? It's one of the standout episodes, really, isn't it? Like Blink and stuff that people talk about. It's like, that one's one of my favourites. It's so good.
What do you think of Donna as a companion? Did you cry?
Did you make a
Why
weep?
didn't you cry if you didn't? You're a sociopath. Oh, God, I just stood on the cat. Sorry.
You're a sociopath. Let me stand on this animal.
I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
I'm very sorry.
You're going to knock a lot of things off on the floor.
I'm very sorry.
For those who can't see what's happening, which is all of you, Luna, our cat, is looking up at Lucy like, what? What are you saying to me?
You woke me up, bitch.
You wench.
And now I'll go back to sleep.
Doctor Who Review will continue very, very, very soon. Before we kick on into the specials year and stuff that came out in 2009, we're going to look at one more, obviously the 2008 Christmas special. We're going to look at one more little 2008 thing and have a little discussion about the music of Doctor Who, and specifically the concerts of the music of Doctor Who. We'll see in a bit.
Bye.